to a new vlog. It is feeling very wintry outside at the moment. It's rainy, it's cold. I feel like I can hear the birds protesting, but it's very cozy inside, and I have a coffee. And yeah, I went to my riding lesson yesterday and I was riding Sarge. I'll put a little video of him in here. So cute. You're so cute, Sargy. He's so cute. He's like a little bit more inexperienced, and so I feel like it's a really good exercise for like me in the sense of like going back to the basics, because I think sometimes some of the horses are like seasoned school horses. They kind of know what to do, they know what to expect. Like, as long as you motivate them properly, they're gonna kind of give you like what you're looking for the most part. And I think Sarge is a little bit more inexperienced, he's a little bit more green, and so he's still sort of figuring out like, oh, what are you asking for? What am I actually supposed to do? Oh my god, that takes a lot of like effort. Are you sure you want me to do that? And I think it's good experience for me because it kind of teaches you how to really be strong in your basics. And it's kind of funny because I feel like horseback riding really combines like two of my main loves, like psychology and horses, in the sense that training is really, I mean, I think with training most animals, like training is really based on like the psychological principle of like operant conditioning, which is originally from Pavlov, and that's kind of like the whole associating a thing with another thing kind of thing, like cause and effect, like the Pavlov's dogs and the ringing of the bell and associating that with food. And essentially that's what you're doing with horses and training them too. Like we teach them, you move away from pressure. And so when you go to put your leg on, you want them to move forwards. And if they're not really giving you the responses you're looking for, there's actually a guy, Andrew McLean, who is actually Australian too, which I love, who wanted to create evidence-based horse training techniques, because a lot of horse training is like, people are like, oh, the horse is just doing blah, blah, blah. And they're like assigning like these human motivations and attributes or attributions to horses. And not to say that they don't have their own personalities, they very much do. And other research about horses has shown like they can strategize, they can plan, like they can kind of figure out, I think manipulate is too strong a word, but it's like, if they know you have a treat, then I think they did some study that figured out that they would strategize like how to get more of those from you or something along the lines. I read it like very briefly, but I think it's really interesting because it really forces you to go back to basics. Like instead of like a really well-trained horse who like really knows those responses, and you have like a bit of a younger horse that's like, oh, like you're doing this thing, I maybe don't really know what you're asking me to do, or like that feels really hard. And so it's almost like you really have to break it down to those basics if like he's getting confused or you're not really getting the reactions that you're looking for. It's almost like really bringing it back to this step of like, okay, I'm asking you to move forward, leg on, you move forward, great, reward is like the release of pressure, which is like the operant conditioning thing. So it's kind of almost really breaking it down to basics, which I think is like a good opportunity, I think, for me as a rider to like, it's different when you get on a horse who's been doing it for a really long time and they're like, yeah, I know what you're asking me to do, I just maybe don't want to do it, or you're asking in a way that I don't like, or whatever it is. So yeah, that's been really interesting, and yeah, has been a really valuable experience overall. So in today's video, I thought maybe we could do some gardening, we could do some planting up, we could do some baking together. I have some phyllo pastry left over from another recipe that I want to try and use, and we are absolutely freestyling it with this recipe. We are just kind of making it up as we go, so we'll see how that goes. But I think sometimes the most fun and the most interesting things in the kitchen happen from you doing that. Baking is not an area that I often want to play around with things too much because of like baking like protocols, recipes, they're usually written in a very precise way, and there's a reason for that. Versus cooking, I think you can kind of like be a little bit more free-flowing with things, and it's not gonna just make the whole thing not rise. But I think with like a tart, it's pretty forgiving, and I'm sure it will be delicious. So yeah, let's get into it. If you remember the mint that I was drying from the other vlog, it is all dry. That technique of putting it between 2 tea towels and then just leaving it actually worked really well. I would say I left it for probably about a week, and yeah, it was just hanging out in a normal temperature room. So yeah, now it's all dried and ready to make into tea. And honestly, it blows me away how much mint you harvest and how small it dries down for what you get to use to make it into a tea. But there she is. I thought we could finally plant the seedlings in their pots. Some of them are going to be direct sow, like the carrots. Other ones, we're going to start them in one of the seed cell trays. It is a little bit blustery out, so I'm not sure how this is gonna work. I might either have to do a voiceover, or I just don't want to do it inside because like then the dirt gets everywhere. So I think we might have to go out, and also like the balcony is, I'm obviously like right above another person. That's how an apartment works. And I just, yeah, yelling off my balcony about what we're doing gardening just doesn't feel very neighborly. I don't know, but yeah, maybe the best way is to start everything out there. But in the meantime, I will show you the seed things that I picked up. We really do it all on this channel, and we do clothing unboxings, we do gardening unboxings, but yeah, I thought if you are new to gardening, or maybe you are not sure what you need, or maybe you are new to planting seeds, I don't know. Maybe if you're just new, maybe you just like learning about gardening. I thought we could walk us through. I do not pretend to be like, I'm not a professional gardener by any means, very much still on my journey of learning along the way, but I think sometimes it's nice to learn from somebody who is also just learning how to do things too, because then they know what it was like to be a beginner. And I think the thing is about gardening is like, obviously you've seen the balcony. You don't need a ton of room to have a garden. You could just grab some pots and call it a day. But, okay, what have we got here? So, oh my goodness. It is all happening. So what we've got in here, so these are, how tiny is that? These are the Paris Market carrots, and they grow in like a golf ball shape, so you don't need a lot of space. Also, you can see how like teeny tiny those seeds are. So we're gonna like soak the soil first, put a tiny bit of soil over top, and just leave them to do their thing. And a technique that I heard about that I'm gonna give a try is they were like, obviously you don't want your carrots to be overly crowded. You want them to have enough space, but also the seeds are teeny tiny. So what you can do is just throw them all in there. And then once they start to come out, if there's any that look like they're too crowded or they're taking up too much space, you can kind of like pick them out like that. And then this is the cucamelon, which is like a cucumber that grows in sort of a small ball shape, and it's supposed to have like kind of a citrus flavor. Also, the other seeds that I ordered from a different company. This is lemon thyme. I thought I could just underplant the tomatoes and like the other things like that once they're transplanted into their bigger pots, like not what we're going to be doing today. Thought I could just throw the seeds in there, underplant it with that, and just see how it all goes together. And this is basil genovese. So yeah, so in spring and summer, perfect. And next we have our micro tomatoes, which are smaller than dwarf tomatoes, and they apparently, this is the window box variety. Apparently you can grow this anywhere. And yeah, so what does it say about how big it gets? Does it say that? It does not. I think it said it on the website. It was like 20 centimeters or something like that. So I was sort of on the fence about like, I'm just gonna start everything in there. I was like going back and forth about like, how am I gonna do things? What am I gonna start where? Should I just direct sow it into the pots? Everything aside from the carrots is gonna be started in here, because obviously once carrots are a root, you don't want to be fiddling around with them. They won't like that. You just want to put them in their pot and call it a day. So next we have another variety of micro tomato. These ones are called Little Heartbreaker, which I thought was really cute. And they are little heart-shaped tomatoes, which I thought was very cute. And this was a complimentary packet of seeds that they gave me, which is another variety of tomato, but this is a full-size tomato, and I don't really have space for a full-size tomato. So I don't know, maybe we'll just start it and see what happens. I can always buy some new pots. It will take a little while for it to get started. And because we have so many seeds and we need to be able to remember what we've put into each little thingy, I ordered, oh my gosh, what is going on here? These little copper nameplate things. I mean, to be fair, that seems, I guess it'll work for putting in the seed cell tray. It is quite long. I think it would work better if you were putting it directly into the ground. Apparently you can just write on it with like a black Sharpie marker, and I mean, it doesn't get rained on out there, so nothing is gonna wash it away. The only thing I would think is if you were watering it and you weren't careful about where you were watering it. So we've got a bunch of those, and oops, oh, the tape is sticking everything together. So we have some jute, how do you even say it? Twine, and it has wire in the middle. So this is gonna be really handy for if anything gets bigger and I need to stake anything, like I think I might with the cucamelon, although it does have like a little wire obelisk thing to grow up. But if you need to train it or tie anything to anything else, just for a little bit of extra support, thought this would be good to have. And it was like, I don't know, $5 or something like that. So I thought it would be a good option. And last but not least, this is the seed cell tray. They've taped them together. I believe you had to buy two, but that's okay because it's just a chance to start more things. And I think the thing with seeds though is like you probably want, like, I only want one of each tomato plant. I am definitely going to plant more tomato seeds than that, because you never know with seeds. Do they work? Do they not work? Like, so we're going to start a fair few plants and then just get things going. And yeah, I guess I'll do it outside and I'll film it, and maybe I'll just do like a voiceover for that part because it's windy. We don't want to yell at, we don't want to yell about gardening to the neighbors. I don't know, maybe they'll learn something. But anyways, let's get into the garden. And this is the little H&M shirt that I was showing you guys earlier. And I paired it with the little H&M shorts. You can't see them because they're below where the camera goes. But yeah, I really like it. I feel like this is a good gardening shirt. And I mean, it will show if dirt gets on it, but it's not white. Not gardening in a white dress. So yeah. First, we're gonna label our seeds, because as soon as you put them in the seed tray, you are absolutely not going to remember what anything is. So labeling is essential. I thought these little copper name tags were really cute because you can erase what you've written and then write something new for the next time you use them. So we're filling up the seed trays with soil. This is just like a good quality potting mix. It was pretty windy out there. Some of the seed packets were blowing away, so I feel like this voiceover is definitely needed. And so, yeah, just using like a good quality potting mix to fill up the seed trays, and you really want to make sure they're full and tamp it down so there's not just like any little pockets of air or anything in there. And then now we're getting everything set up at the potting station. You can see how windy it is from the camera blowing around. And yeah, we're getting all our seeds organized. Was this the best day to do this with these teeny tiny little seeds? Possibly not, but such is life. I've put it on the baking tray because I wanted to easily be able to carry these around, and I don't want the water coming out the bottom and going everywhere. So that's what's going on there. And using the end of a Sharpie as a dibber is actually perfect. You don't need any $49 dibbers. You can just use the end of a Sharpie. You want to look on the seed packet to see how deep you should be sowing your seeds. It's usually between 2 to 5 millimeters, so really not too deep, because you want to make sure that your seeds are close enough so that they can get like once the energy in them starts going, like they need to be able to go upwards and go towards the light, and that's really hard if they're way too far underneath the surface of the soil. So you want to make that journey easy for them, but then you also don't want them sitting on the top of the soil where they can blow away or get washed away or anything. Somewhere in the middle. And yeah, just look on the packet. The packet will tell you how deep you're supposed to sow them, also the time of year that you're supposed to sow them, which is really important as well. You don't want to be doing things out of season because nature doesn't work that way, and you want to make sure you are generally spring, end of winter is a good time, but the packets will tell you everything that you need to know. So we're just doing the tomatoes here, and apparently I'm really struggling to get into the package, but we got there in the end. And so I'm just gonna put 2 seeds in each seed cell. And the reason I'm doing that is because not every seed is going to germinate. So you want to kind of overplant to ensure that, see how tiny they are also, like they're so little. You want to make sure that you're overplanting so that you know they're going to germinate, and you want to make sure that if they start to grow and you say you have like 3 tomatoes growing in one cell, you can pinch one out and like put it in another cell, or just get rid of it, or put it in a pot. You don't want them to be overcrowded either once they start growing, but yeah, overplanting is a good way of ensuring that you're actually going to get something and you haven't just put like 1 seed in and then nothing happens and you have to start all over again. So that's what I was doing here. And now I think, yeah, I did 4 cells of each variety of tomato. We have 2 varieties of tomato that we are going to try and grow. And then I also am going to try and grow some herbs to underplant the tomatoes, and some cucamelons as well. And then also some strawberries, radishes, and I think that's it. I think the other seeds I got were broccoli sprouting seeds, and I'm just going to sprout those as microgreens because broccoli is really high in something called sulforaphane, which some people say it's like anti-carcinogenic, which is really great, and I think it might be one of the only food sources of it, and especially if you're doing microgreens or sprouting, it's a really good way of getting it, and it's way more bioavailable because you're not getting it from like a supplement or a pill, like you're just getting it straight from the broccoli sprouts. So yeah, a little bit of an aside there, but we are just gently tucking the seeds in, putting a little tiny bit of soil over top of them, not too much. And I also pre-watered all the seed cell trays, so it's not like, you don't want to do it afterwards because you don't want to wash all of your seeds away, basically. So if you pre-water the soil and then you plant your seeds, at least they're getting moisture evenly. And then you can even use like a mister when they're first germinating to like dampen the soil. I was gonna say you could moisturize them, I guess you are moisturizing them, but you can use just a spray bottle with water in it to keep the soil damp until they germinate, but you don't want it to be too damp either. There's a fine balance. You don't want them to be soaking wet because then there's not going to be able to move, and you don't want them to be too dry either because they need that water to get going. So now we're planting in the other variety of tomato and just tucking them in as so. I am so excited to see these sprout. I think I've been checking on them every single day and being like, is it today? Is it today? But it's just something about gardening where you're just waiting for those little shoots to come out of the ground and you're like, is it gonna work? Yeah. And then I just try and remind myself, like, nature has been doing this for a really long time. Like, you don't need to over interfere. Just do what you need to do and then leave them alone, because I definitely am prone to overloving my plants, especially when I was kind of learning more. I loved overwatering everything, and the plants don't like that. So now we've got our labels, we're putting them in and putting the last of the herb seeds in just to start them off. I'm doing some flowering thyme and some Genovese basil and just watering those in. And the carrots are just direct sow too, of course, because you don't need to sprout them. And now I brought them back inside so they can germinate in the warmth of being indoors and not have to deal with the cold temp outside. Outside at night, it's about 9 to 10 degrees, which isn't too bad, but I just thought they'll go quicker if they're indoors. And you can even get little seed cell trays that have like a greenhouse like top over them to kind of do this same effect, but I think you could leave them outdoors then.
And we're gonna keep them inside.
Right now they're just sitting by my dining room table, and we are waiting for them to start sprouting. And then you know that they're ready to plant in the ground when they have, I think it's either their first or their second set of true leaves. So the first ones would be the first ones you see. The second leaves are the ones a little bit lower down, and then they kind of say that your plants are probably, you could start hardening them off and putting them outside. So it's a bunch of different plants in here, so that might all happen at different times. But we shall see. And also the strawberries, I just direct sowed them in their pots as well, because space. Basically. And so I'm hoping that they do okay out there. I definitely overplanted in that pot as well, but I just, the seeds are so tiny, I figured why not? Like, let's just see what happens. So, that's how you get your seeds started inside, and we will follow the process along the way when it's time for the next step. Also, I did my gel manicure. I've been doing my nails since 2020 pretty much, when there wasn't much else to do except for pursuits in your house. And yeah, I did just like a very pared back, sort of like milky nude builder gel. I normally do like a darker, like reddish brown, but I've been doing that all winter, and sometimes I think it's kind of nice to mix it up. So I feel very naked right now. It feels very weird not having like seeing a dark color there, you know, when you just get used to seeing a color, but I like it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I have some leftover phyllo pastry that came in my dinnerly order, and I didn't use the whole thing for the recipe. It seems like a shame for it to go to waste, and I have frozen blueberries and don't judge me for how this looks. A little like leftover thing of cream cheese from another recipe that I made. So I thought we could do like a blueberry cheesecake galette tart hybrid thing. And also I have this very tired looking half a lemon. This is like, you know when you make like a dinner out of all the odds and ends that are in your fridge? This is like the dessert version of that. So what we are gonna do is first, I've looked at a couple like tart recipes online. I even think there is a tart recipe on the back of here, if I'm correct. Never mind, ignore me. There's just a picture of tarts, which is what gave me the idea. So this is going to be very experimental. I will tell you my measurements as I'm going through it if you want to try and attempt the same thing. But I think unlike most baking, this is something that will kind of work without needing to be too perfect. Like obviously if you make a cake, you do want to be precise in how you measure things, and you want to make sure you do that so that the right things happen in the oven and you get the right chemical reactions and so on and so forth. Like baking is not usually the place that you want to experiment with things if you want it to work, but I think this will be quite forgiving because basically we're just gonna like put together blueberries, lemon, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of corn flour, mix that all up, do a couple layers of the pastry. I'm gonna melt a little bit of butter and a little bit of liquid coconut oil. You could use whatever neutral flavored oil. You could do all butter if you wanted to. This recipe is very forgiving, so we'll do a couple of layers of that. I think what I'm gonna do is we'll do like a few layers and then we'll cut it down the middle so it is a square, and then I'll put the blueberries on and then we'll roll up the edges over the tart, which is where the galette part comes in. And before the blueberries go on, then I'm gonna do a little, I'm just gonna spread the cream cheese on the base of it, so it'll kind of like, the blueberries with it will kind of give it like a cheesecakey effect. So yeah, I think this is gonna be good. So let's get baking. First things first, we're going to put our blueberries and we're going to prep the blueberry filling. Actually, that's a lie. The first thing we're going to do is turn on the oven. So I'm going to preheat that to 180 degrees. This is approximately 2 cups of blueberries, I think. Yeah, this is roughly 2 cups of blueberries, not blueberry. I ran out of caster sugar, so our options are unrefined coconut sugar or icing sugar. I think this is going to work better for this, so we're going to, you know what, let's measure. For the sake of anyone following along at home, if you're not being a baking vigilante, a baking rebel like I am at the moment, and you want to know some exact measurements, I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of unrefined coconut sugar. I'm sure you could use whatever kind of sugar you have at home. I'm going to do one tablespoon of corn flour, like a heaped tablespoon, because this is going to be what thickens everything so that you have like a thickened filling and not just a giant mess, because nobody wants a giant mess. Then we are also going to, I'm going to do a dash of cinnamon, a little bit of vanilla extract, probably about a teaspoon, but I just measure with my heart when it comes to vanilla. A squeeze of lemon. I'm going to just grate, oops, that's the wrong side. I'm going to grate a little bit of the skin. into the blueberry mixture. Oh my god, the smell of lemon zest is just the best. The best. Every time, if you're a Seinfeld fan, this will make you laugh. Every time I like say like this is the best, I think of Kramer being like, "This is the best, Jerry, the best." Oh my god! If you understand that reference, we can be friends. Then I'm going to grab something to mix the blueberries. Oops, we lost one. It just feels like summer outside, and I feel like when it starts to feel like summer outside, maybe I'll do a little bit more lemon. Like a blueberry tart or any kind of berry tart or like berry crumble, it really just makes me think about summer. And even though these blueberries were frozen, it just, I can, you know, when you get to the end of winter and you can just feel that spring is around the corner, you can feel the days are warming up, and like I didn't wear 2 jumpers this morning to Pilates. Like I was chilly, but if I did that like even 3 weeks ago, I would have been frozen. So we're gonna blueberry mixture. So we have the blueberry mixture doing its thing, and now I think we're gonna grab, I mean, we have the whole rest of the thing of phyllo pastry to use up because I'm not going to use it for anything else, and I don't actually know how long you can keep it in the fridge before it goes out of date. There has to be, oh, before September 22nd. So we've got a few days. So with phyllo pastry, you want to make sure that like you don't want to leave it out on the bench and let it dry out. So you want to put a tea towel or a damp tea towel if you can over top of it to keep that from happening. I'm gonna add, I'm really just eyeballing this. I think it's probably 3 tablespoons of, I just used the liquid coconut oil. And I'm gonna grab some butter and we're gonna melt that in the pan. And this is what we're gonna brush in between the layers. I would say I'm adding about two tablespoons of butter, but we're gonna keep a little bit extra off to the side, just in case. I'm gonna do this in a 9, I think this is a 9-inch, maybe it's smaller. A small cake pan, because I think this feels like a good size, and then I can roll up then I can roll over the edges of the pastry over top. And I think if I cut the pastry sheets in half, that should create a pretty good size base for it. And we don't want this to look super perfect, like it is meant to be a little bit rustic, so it doesn't have to look perfect. Whilst the butter and the oil are melting together on the stove, I'm gonna get my pastry ready. Pastry comes like so. I'm sure you've seen phyllo pastry before. This isn't anything new. So we're going to grab 7 sheets of it. until September 22nd. With today feeling so much like spring, it just makes me really want to clean things. Like this morning I did like a giant deep clean of the whole apartment, like just zooming here, there, everywhere, like picking up every surface. I was thinking about doing a wardrobe cleanup, but I didn't get to that because I was too busy deep cleaning everything else. Like something in spring just brings it out in you. I don't know what it is. So I think here's the plan. So I have my pastry dish. Let me bring you down a little bit so you can see what is happening over here. So I have my pastry dish. I have my phyllo pastry. I'm gonna work quick because I'm being very naughty and like not leaving. I'm like just leaving the pastry out without anything over it, which you're not really supposed to do, but I'm gonna be fast. And then you're gonna brush the layers. And then I'm going to apparently tear all my pastry sheets apart like a crazy person. I don't know, I just feel like I'm in a weird mood today. Maybe it's like the spring feeling in the air. Maybe it's the spring cleaning. Maybe it's the moon. Who knows? But next layer. This is what's going to make it really yummy. That's why we're doing the mixture of butter and the coconut oil together. Obviously, you don't have to be super perfect with this, but it is just going to help it crisp up and get nice and golden. Next layer is going, I'm going to just sort of try and align each layer so that it's like first like that, then like that, then like that, then like that. I don't know what you want to call that, but just so that everything is sort of like evenly distributed. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but basically I am just trying to make sure that when I do go to wrap it up, like over the top of the pot of the filling, they're not all like aligned to one direction. And if your pastry rips a little bit, that is so fine. Don't even worry about it because you have so many layers and it's not going to ruin anything. So yeah, spring cleaning. I think maybe we will do a wardrobe clear out because now that I know what I've been wearing sort of this winter, and I'll be able to look at my summer wardrobe and be like, what did I actually wear? Maybe I'll do like a wardrobe, like a rack sale or something, just because, yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to get a good flow in and out and like see what you're actually using and being aware of that kind of thing. Now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, is this too many layers? But I don't think it is. Here's a fun fact. This is my first time ever making something kind of like a tart with phyllo. Is it phyllo or phyllo? I don't know. With this kind of pastry in this way. Like I've used it to do other things, but I've never actually done it this way. So this is a first for all of us. And I think it's going to be really delicious though, because the pastry just creates like a nice flaky layer, and that amount of coconut oil and butter apparently is just perfect too, which is good. It's going to help bring out the flavors of the blueberries and the sweetness. So now we have our blueberry mixture. In she goes. Oh my goodness, I just love the color of blueberries. So delicious. Now we're going to take our filling and we're going to bring it up and over. Last minute change in plans. I don't think this tray is going to be big enough, so popping it out and carefully moving it over to one that is a little bit bigger. And we are gently pushing the blueberries out. Just keeping it real with you guys. Sometimes baking experiments don't always go exactly the way you planned. And I think that's okay, because that's the point of experimenting. Okay. So, now we have our blueberry tart. She is looking like this. And I'm gonna do a quick sprinkle around the edge with a little bit of sugar. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a teensy tiny bit. This would be better if you had like a coarse sugar. But because this is an on-the-fly recipe, going in the oven. I didn't have that. So now we're gonna put it in the oven.
22 minutes, starting now.
I'm gonna put her in the oven for 22 minutes just to start, and then I'll come back and check on her. This morning and a little bit yesterday afternoon, I was watching that Taylor Swift podcast with Travis Kelce, and like, you'll have to forgive me because I don't remember the other host's name. And they were talking about how they were like asking Taylor, like, oh, what have you been doing since you haven't been on tour anymore? And she's like, oh, I've gotten really into baking. And they were like, what are you baking? And she was like, sourdough. And I was like, oh, a girly after my own heart. And also, let me know if you're excited for her next album, which I love that they like chose that way to share it. It makes me really happy. And she was talking about all the different flavors of sourdough she was doing. Like, she's trying to do a rainbow one. She's trying to do like, or she's done like a cinnamon swirl one. And I was like, I never even thought to try and do that with my sourdough. Like, I think I'm always just trying to get the perfect, just basic white sourdough loaf. I mean, I did try and do like a jalapeno and cheddar version to replicate like my favorite one that I buy from another like sourdough company. Not that I'm a sourdough company, but like that they sell like in the farm shop that's by my house that I really love. And that's really the only flavor that I've tried to do. I haven't even tried, I experimented with adding a little bit of rye flour, because rye flour can help like with get a better fermentation, but then you also get like a smaller crumb generally is kind of the trade-off. Like, it's a bit denser of a loaf, which you would know if you've eaten rye bread before, which I don't mind, but I think I was listening to it and I was like, maybe I need to broaden my baking horizons. Maybe I need to try and do some different flavors. My thing though is like, I like a savory breakfast generally, unless it is a smoothie, in which case nobody wants a savory smoothie. I'm pretty sure that's just soup. Or gazpacho. Anyways, that's not, I don't want to have that for breakfast, but I generally like a savory breakfast, like my avocado toast, or like mushrooms on toast, or scrambled eggs on toast, or whatever. But then I was thinking, so I probably wouldn't do like a cinnamon swirl, but I was like, maybe there is some other, like I could do like a rosemary herb. I could do, I've seen some recipes with like olives. I might swap jalapenos for olives though, because I like jalapenos more than I like olives. So yeah, I've been thinking about it. And she was talking about how like she's on all the sourdough blogs, and I was like, one, hard relate, because when you start baking sourdough you have all the questions. You're like, why is it doing this, why is it not doing this, and so where do you turn the internet? And then also I was thinking, imagine you've just been writing your sourdough blog and making sourdough, and then all of a sudden Taylor Swift shows up in your comments. Maybe she uses a pseudonym or like a different username or something, but say she is using her real name and you're like, is this like the Taylor Swift? And she's asking me about bread hydration or something else, or like fermentation times. Yeah, that made me laugh. And how she was talking about how like she has like grandma hobbies, and I was like, yeah, I can relate hardcore. But I don't know, is this just like a millennial thing? Are millennials now in their like grandma hobby era? I did see a thing quoting some research that said that people who have grandma hobbies are happier. So interesting. But then, I mean, correlation is not causation, and who's to say it's not just the kind of people who like doing grandma hobbies are just happier people in general, and it doesn't have anything to do with their hobbies or whatever. I think that's the funny thing about doing like a research degree, is you start to look at everything through the lens of, you're like, okay, but actually how would we prove that if we had to like get the variables to like operationalize the variables? This just got very nerdy. But yes, we're waiting for the tart. It was like chaos baking vibes. If you came here for a calm baking video, I'm sorry, that was a little bit chaotic. We decided to swap pans halfway through, but I think it's important to keep it real. Like, not, if you're gonna start being adventurous in baking, it's not gonna be perfect every single time, and it's not gonna look perfect every single time. And at least we're aiming for a rustic looking tart. I do wish I had ice cream though to put on top of it. Or I have like a vanilla coconut yogurt, but is that gonna do what ice cream can do? I'm gonna let that bake. I will come back. For you, it will be a few seconds. I'm gonna go do whatever I can do for 15 minutes while that finishes. Okay, she is out of the oven, and now we're just gonna leave her to cool down and allow the filling to solidify before we start getting into her. I put a little dollop of the, why is the name escaping me? The coconut yogurt, the vanilla coconut yogurt on it. So let's see how it tastes. That is delicious. Like, the cheesecake layer underneath is so good. Like, it's creamy, it's blueberry-y, it's lemony, it's really fresh. It's, yeah, just absolutely delicious. I'll see if you guys want, I can write up the recipe properly. If not, I believe all the measurements are there. You can kind of figure it out based on following along what I said. And yeah, if you have blueberries, if you have phyllo pastry, you can make this so easily. I think I ended up baking it for 40 minutes just to get the top really golden. But obviously, I would say check your oven. Like, definitely keep checking on it. You don't want to, yeah, everyone's oven is so different, so I don't want to lead you astray. But yeah, oh my god, this is so good. Exactly what I was looking for. So yeah, if you try it, let me know below. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this vlog here. Thank you so much for watching and being here as always. And don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.